And in the meantime, the Senate is returning 1 week from now and facing a major fight over confirmations of President Trump's nominees. Democrats are doing pretty much everything they can to slow down the process as Republicans consider rule changes to try and fight that tactic. Senior national correspondent, congressional correspondent, Chad Pergram is joining us live on Capitol Hill with more on this. Hi, Chad.
Bill, good morning. Republicans blame Democrats for obstructing the confirmation of President Trump's nominees. The Senate left Washington for the August recess without confirming a host of nominees. So Republicans want to make it easier to bypass Democratic roadblocks.
I think there's a shot. We've got to make some changes to accelerate the way nominations go through. The Democrats have obfuscated. Chuck Schumer stood in the way when we come back from recess.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune says Democrats filibustered each of the president's nominees, even some which were not controversial. Thune says that has never happened before. As a remedy, Republicans want to alter Senate procedure to make it easier to speed through nominees.
This needs to stop. It's just silly, and I'm tired of it. So hopefully there'll be a breakthrough. If not, we'll change the rules so we can process these things.
Even some Democrats are open to accelerating the confirmation process. Democrat Peter Welch of Vermont believes each president has the right to have their team in place.
We have to reform our nomination process. I don't think the Senate needs to be confirming, quote, lower level. Rules have been established and they're pre-existing. So either side that uses the current Senate rules is using the rules.
Now, changing the actual Senate rules is hard, but establishing a new precedent is easier. Former Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell did that in 2017 to confirm Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch. Democrats also deployed the same tactic in 2013. Bill?
All right, Chad Pergram live on Capitol Hill for us this morning. Chad, thank you.
Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso is ready to go nuclear on Senate Democrats and their blockade of President Donald Trump's nominees. Before leaving Washington, D.C. to their respective home states, Senate Republicans were on the verge of a deal with their colleagues across the aisle to hammer out a deal to ram through dozens of Trump's picks for non-controversial positions. But those talks fell apart when Trump nuked any further negotiations over funding demands from Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, DNY. Currently, there are 145 pending nominations on the Senate's executive calendar, with that number expected to balloon when the upper chamber reopens for business. Lawmakers are set to return on Tuesday, and Barrasso, R. Wyoming, wants to immediately tackle the nomination quandary. He's engaged in a public pressure campaign, writing an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal directly calling out Schumer. Meanwhile, he's facilitated talks among Senate Republicans on the best path forward, and told Fox News Digital in an interview that, at this point, he's willing to do anything necessary to see the president's picks confirmed. We need to either get a lot of cooperation from the Democrats, or we're going to have to roll over them with changes of the rules that we're going to be able to do in a unilateral way, as well as President Trump making recess appointments, he said. Senate Democrats under Schumer's direction are unlikely to play ball, however. Schumer, in response to Barrasso's public jab against him and Senate Democrats, contended in a statement that historically bad nominees deserve a historic level of scrutiny by Senate Democrats. Anybody nominated by President Trump is, in Schumer's words, historically bad. Why? Because they were nominated by President Trump, Barrasso shot back. That is his sole criteria for which these people are being gone, after and filibustered. Each and every one of them, even those that are coming out of committee, many of whom are with bipartisan support. Unilaterally changing the rules, or the nuclear option, would allow Republicans to make tweaks to the confirmation process without help from Democrats. But it could also kneecap further negotiations on key items that would require their support to advance beyond the Senate filibuster. Barrasso was not worried about taking that route, however, and noted that the nominees that he and other Republicans were specifically considering would be sub-cabinet level positions and ambassadors. Up for discussion are changes to the debate time. What kind of nominee could qualify for a speedier process, and whether to give the president runway to make recess appointments, which would require the Senate to go into recess and allow Trump to make appointments on a temporary basis. When you take a look at this right now, it takes a 30-minute roll call vote to get on cloture, and then 2 hours of debate time, and then another 30-minute roll call vote, Barrasso said. Well, that's 3 hours, and it's time when you can't do legislation, you can't do any of the other things. But there is a menu of key items that Congress will have to deal with when they return, particularly the deadline to fund the government by September. Muppadavde. Barrasso acknowledged that reality and noted that it was because of the hefty schedule that he wanted a rules change to be put front and center. There's not going to be any time or there's going to be limited time, I should say, to actually get people through the nominations process, which is just going to drag on further, and you'll have more people having hearings and coming out of committees, he said. This backlog is going to worsen this traffic jam at the Schumer toll booth. So we are going to do something because this cannot stand.